Obviously, a 0-0 draw is never fun, but it really did seem like you guys were the dominant side for a lot of that match, especially on the offensive side of the ball. What are some takeaways for you guys from this match, despite not getting the exact result?
Again, I think results is the one thing you can't affect, and then the next most difficult thing to do is put the ball in the back of the net. I think as far as executing the game plan, first half there were some moments defensively where I thought we were a bit loose, but I think in the second half, again, we got good pressure on the ball against a team that likes to dominate the game with the ball and have a lot of possession in the final third, and I thought the guys did a great job. I think the biggest takeaway for me, the chance that Andres has in the first half in front of goal, obviously Crooksy hitting the post, and there's a couple others, but I think on the whole, I think we just need to make better decisions in that final third, and at times have more patience, because a big part of what we do is want to set up a good rest defense, and so if we have to rotate the ball to get a better option looking forward, but again, I think that's getting into the weeds and very detailed. I think we did enough to get 3 tonight, but again, it's football, and that's why you got to put your best foot forward every weekend, because you're not guaranteed anything. But again, I think it's a good performance to continue to build on as we head on the road.
This is probably the third home match that I've been to where the crowd has audibly been expressed some displeasure with the officiating quite loudly. Your team had probably more than 10 or more fouls, more than Columbus for most of the second half. What were your thoughts on that, I guess? How do you kind of approach that with what seemed, 5 yellow cards for your players?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, I would prefer a soccer game without any fouls called. Is the way I'd like to see the game. But if you're going to call fouls, I just think it's really difficult when there's so many yellow cards shown and then there's yellow card fouls after that don't get the same kind of treatment. And I think consistency is always important. But again, I think the refs are under, they're under a microscope every game, and it's very difficult. But I think from this game, I think that was it. Just I don't know if there was a player on the field for our team that didn't have a yellow card, which is probably a first.
Yeah, so this was the first RSL game since LAFC where they kept a clean sheet. What are your kind of thoughts on that in such a frustrating game with so many fouls and not being able to put away those chances? How important is that going forward?
That's a great point. It's so funny because you oftentimes don't realize that because you knock on the door a lot and you just don't get rewarded with the goal. But again, I think defensively, we were very aggressive, and from that, I think we won a lot of balls in really, really good areas. And credit to the guys on the back line and the pressure that we had on the ball up front. Everyone did a really good job of making sure we came away with a clean sheet. And against a team like this, that's obviously never easy. And I think it's a great foundation to build on as we continue forward.
You speak a lot about mentality. How would you rate this game for your team's mentality? It looked like they got Columbus with the heavily rotated side kind of got under the skin, and also the calls that were just mentioned kind of got under the skin of your players. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I would say from a mentality perspective, we want to be an aggressive team, and we want to be on the front foot. I think as we continue through the season, there's moments where we have to dial it back a little bit, but you always want to be dialing it back versus having guys that don't understand what it takes to win games, and you gotta scrap for every point in this league, and so I think from a mentality perspective, they approach the game the right way. I mean, again, all the games that I've seen, even the game where Columbus goes to Tigres, they had a ton of the ball. And tonight, they had to work for every bit of possession that they had. And for me, that's a sign of a great mentality for our group.
What was the thought process on subbing out Crooks and Luna at the same time?
Well, again, I think at that moment, we weren't getting in behind. We weren't. The game needed a little bit of something, and Fidel, again, he's a guy that always looks for goal, whether it's training or in games. Thought that was important, and then bringing Ando onto the field where it asks another question of just bringing pace on the field, and so you have Andres and then you have Ando, and trying to free up Chicho in the pocket, and I think he got the ball in some really good spots. Again, but I think in the final third we just weren't clean with our decision making. That should have led to better opportunities on goal.
What's the thought process going forward after a game like this? Does it feel like you dropped 2 points at home?
No, it feels like we're 8 games into the season and there's a lot of work to do. Again, results you don't control. You can't get to the playoffs by counting points now. There's a lot more soccer to be played, and so the important thing is performance. Did we execute the plan that we set forth? And I think we did. Again, the only thing lacking is the goals, but it's the hardest thing to do in football, and we'll just keep cracking on.
Thank you.
Pablo, there were a lot of yellow cards, and there was a potential yellow when Catranis was fouled right in front of the bench. You had a conversation with the fourth. Did you get an explanation on why that wasn't a yellow? Because it would have been a red. It would have been a second.
Correct, and I think that's what I was saying about consistency. And it's really difficult to manage a game when there's so many yellows thrown. But what I was told is he didn't see it as a yellow, and so that's the information I was given.
You've talked the past few weeks about too many guys dropping too deep, and it's really hurting the buildup. Did you think guys did a better job of being between the lines where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there?
I think so. I think so. Again, I think every team poses its challenges given their defensive shape. And again, what we talk about is the spaces that are available for us to exploit. And I thought, Diego and Crooksey picked up balls in really good areas. Andres always stretching, which was a threat all night. Chicho picking up the ball between the lines. And so I think for the most part, I think we did a really good job of that, of staying between the lines. And again, I think and that's why I use every game as a barometer. You're not going to get from 1 to 10 right away. But I think since the Colorado game, we've done a really good job of understanding the structure, the roles and responsibilities, and the guys that have been executing.
Given the fact you've got to go on the road the next 2 weeks, do you think the guys have shown the aggressiveness and the focus that's going to be required usually when you go on the road?
I think so. I think one of the things that we took from the Minnesota game was to continue to play the same way and not sit back and not let them have the ball because we want to preserve a result. We want to play the game regardless of the time and the score. We don't want to change what we do because then what ends up happening is you got half the group thinking a certain way and half a group thinking the other way, and in that disconnect, you're not a team anymore. And I thought tonight we didn't change that. We played to get the goal. We didn't last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We didn't drop another back. As a matter of fact, I think at times we were hyper aggressive, and I love that. And I think the game, fortune favors the brave in everything in life. And if we take a point now, to take 6 in the next 3 games or whatever it looks like, then it was all worth it. But the most important thing is that we've as a group we're making progress from that perspective, and I think it'll pay dividends in the end.
Pablo, Zach McMath had a lot of balls up and over the top. Is that part of the strategy as well, or was that just variation of service?
So again, I think the important thing for me as a coach is, and this is the takeaway from the Minnesota game, is we want everyone to be playing to our game model, to our style of play every game. The player on the ball has the decision to play whatever he sees, right? As a coach, if you're micromanaging and joysticking, then it's us using these guys as chess pieces. The reason why they're here is because they're very good players, and they all have the autonomy to make decisions. So one of the things that we against a team that plays with a back 5 and they want to release their wingers really hard, the idea was, this guy is going to be open on as we rotate it from left to right. the wing back's going to come. So Andres is going to be naked. And so the idea is you play a ball there. If he's on, play him. And so then the next time, he's got a question of whether or not to release. And again, I don't think we punished him enough from that. We weren't clean enough in that execution to ask really good questions. If Andres would have, set up a goal with a pass or got in behind and scored himself, then now those wing backs have to really make a decision. And more times than not, the tactical adjustment is keep your wing back here. So now Brody has all the time to advance the ball. That wasn't. It was. And I think every long ball he played has a different circumstance, and that would be a question for Zach. Did he see the space in behind, and that he thought it was because he played probably 3 really, really good ones, and then there was a couple that that kind of went astray. But I think that's the important part with for me as a coach is to make sure these guys have the autonomy. As long as everyone knows what we're meant to be doing, they make decisions that they see, so that there's ownership in the team. If not, it just I wouldn't like playing for a coach that would do that anyway.
And then just quick follow-up, clean sheet at home. Congratulations on that. Backline's playing great, and the 2 pivots seem to be gelling together with them as well.
Yeah, you know what? It started back in preseason. Emeka, we thought maybe he'd be more of a right back this year, and because of numbers in the middle of the field, he played 4 or 5 preseason games in that position. Him and Ojeda have this almost like this chemistry that is beyond tactics. That it's a feel thing, and you see it in all the sports, whether it's quarterback with the receiver, or whether it's point guard to the big man. They just have this real connection and understanding of like knowing where they are before the play even evolves. And so those guys have been monsters. And I think the guys in the back, Jay Glad, Vera, and Brody have been solid as well. So again, I think these are all fantastic foundational pieces. And then when it all clicks, it's a thing of magic, because now you put the ball in the back of the net, and now you have teams running out at you, and we want to play the same way. So then we're going to get chances. But we'll work this week on breaking down the walls of that goal and making sure that we get one in the back of the net.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo.
Justin, you guys didn't get the win, but you did get the clean sheet. From a defensive perspective, what was going well for you guys tonight?
Yeah, I thought the effort and the commitment was there. I thought we did a really good job first half, limiting their shots. Second half, the game opened up a little bit, and they had a little more opportunities. But as a whole, the whole team was putting everything on the line, so that was a positive.
And then how tough is it to just see so many chances go without getting one in the back of the net?
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough, but that's how it goes sometimes. Our whole thing, Pablo probably said it 2 minutes ago, but it's just to get one game better. So hopefully next game those fall for us.
It has been a minute since this team has collected a clean sheet at home. Was that obviously a focus, was to go out there and just make sure you guys were tight defensively and kind of didn't allow any gaps against a team that normally likes, I know they had a couple starters and whatnot, but normally likes to press and kind of find those spaces?
I don't think it was particularly on the front of our minds. It was just to win the game, and obviously going into every game our goal is a clean sheet. So I don't think it was any more so tonight. We just happened to limit their chances, and yeah, feels good to get one at home though.
Justin, tonight you passed club legend Javier Morales in minutes played for RSL. I don't know if you knew that was the thing or not, but congrats. How does it feel, having spent so long at this club, that you came up through the academy, spent years and years establishing yourself here?
Yeah, it's a huge honor. even being in the same sentence as someone like Javi Morales is incredible. And yeah, hoping to pass some more players soon.
Anyone else for Justen? Anyone on Zoom have questions for Justen? Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.